Yeah, so Walter is reconnecting right now. Bart, shall we kick off? Walter is in the audience right now.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, welcome back.
Finally. Hi. All right, let's start.
Welcome
Apologies,
back.
guys. I messed up the technology. It must be
No problem. So,
today.
welcome everyone. Welcome at our second Energy Web stage. So, what is the concept of Energy Web stage? With Energy Web stage, we want to give the community updates on a frequent base. Also, Energy Web stage is a place where we lower the barriers and receive feedback from you guys. So, after each event, everyone is able to raise their hand and we can invite those people into stage and they can actually ask questions live. So, Bart, what are the topics for today?
Yeah, today is a very exciting day because we're going to talk about staking, right? Staking on the Energy Web chain. A topic that everyone has been very interested in and very excited about. So yeah, we've seen a lot of questions being sent in and yeah it's promising.
Yeah, that's true. We have seen a lot of questions about staking. So yeah, Walter is here. Welcome, Walter, again. Our second Energy Web stage. Thank you for making time. I think we are very excited about what has. But Walter, we have someone else on stage.
Definitely, yeah. So we have Michael on stage, and Michael is our economist, and I'm sure all the community members will love it. So we'll going to talk a little bit today also on the background of Michael, so you'll know him. So he will be specifically focused on more utility for the Energy Web token. Staking being one of them, but much more to talk about. But before we go there, let me, because I've also looked at all the questions and they're great. It's really cool to see that we have such an engaged community. Of course, staking, I can understand, is a topic that has particular interest, and we'll definitely go into detail. And also, of course, at the end, if people have questions, they can do like we did last time. But what's very important, just to set the scene very briefly, and then one or two questions to Michael, and then I think we jump into to the questions, Daniel. But just to set the scene, we are extremely true, convinced believers in Agile. So what it means is that we develop our solutions, whether it's a technical solution for the blockchain or whether it's a staking solution, we will always develop that in very close cooperation with what we call the product owners, so the people that set the requirement. And obviously, when it comes to staking, all the people on this stage that are listening in are being seen as key stakeholders, for lack of a better word. So your input is extremely relevant. So a lot of the questions you've actually asked will also drive how we're going to do it. But as for those who are familiar with Agile, we prefer real products above documents, so we will also take a very incremental approach. We will be launching a beta version on Volta, we talk about it more, and then when you guys start to use it, we get real feedback, and then we use that feedback to develop the next cycle, etc., etc. So keep that in mind. So it's not that we're going to sit in a room and develop a product, and 2 months from now, here it is, and there's the manual. No, we're actually going to do this in a very interactive way. And the second important thing to keep in mind is that I still think we are the only one, but let me be generous. Perhaps there's a few other projects too, but we are one of the few, if not the only one, projects in the crypto space that deals with real assets, real world, real life use cases, and also real cash flows. And so the staking that we do is not that we create a funny new token and then by having that funny new token you can create another funny new token. We actually have real use cases, one being the decentralized service level that we talk about, the other one that we recently announced on energy access in Africa with Engie Mobisol, where there is also real cash flow coming back. So also keep that in mind. So yes, now and then it might be taking a bit longer here and there, but that's because if we don't have a real project, there's not much to stake. But enough said on that now. Michael, very welcome to Energy Web. Also very welcome to the States. Perhaps you can talk a little bit about 1 or 2 minutes about your background and why you are so excited to actually join Energy Web, and particularly your focus on the utility of Energy Web token.
Great. Thanks, Walter. Thanks, guys, for having me here. I have to admit I'm very nervous because I don't usually talk in front of crowds, 137 people listening. I am an economist. I usually sit in the basement, in the darkest corner of the darkest room, crunching numbers. But it's a great opportunity to actually discuss one of my favorite subjects in the world, which is token economics. So I have a degree in economics, but for many years, too many years, I am embarrassed to admit how old I am, but I wasn't able to use my degree in real life in business. I had a lot of background doing project management, software project management, a lot of renewable energy projects. I used to build solar farms in Europe for a number of years, but around 2016 blockchain sparked my interest very much because I noticed that every single token that is on a public chain is basically either a private currency or a unregulated security or basically a socio-economic incentive structure packed in a smart contract format. So I started doing some work for, let's say, consulting work for blockchain projects, and a lot of times my professional advice to the product team was, don't do it, you're gonna get in trouble, or don't do it, it doesn't make any sense. Fortunately, I was able to work with some really good people in the crypto space with some very reputable projects. I work with one of the top cybersecurity company in the space. I also was an advisor to one of the crypto investment funds. And names that I can mention and brag about a little. I won the Lufthansa Aviation Blockchain Challenge for my design of a loyalty rewards program for Lufthansa that was on a blockchain and utilizing a clever discount token economics. And maybe something else I like to brag about is that one of my Medium articles is used by MIT Sloan as part of their blockchain curriculum. So I mean that's a nice thing.
I think that's enough. That's enough bragging for today, Michael. Yeah.
Okay.
No, I'm joking. But obviously, you have a very impressive background, and if you look at Energy Web and the token economics, what is it you see as the utility for the Energy Web token that actually goes beyond paying for the gas, just from outside in? You're still fresh.
Yes. So I've been watching Energy Web since, let's say, 2018, and this was one of my favorite crypto projects of all time because it solves real world problems and can generate real world cash flows. So there is no speculative demand, it's all organic, it's all, let's say, fundamentals driven. So we've already solved this utility of transferring value, right? We were already paying block rewards to the validators, and people have to pay for transactions on this public infrastructure. So this is solved. Now we are discussing and we are working on creating this utility layer, and let's call it a decentralized cloud infrastructure for the energy industry. I think this is a pretty good explanation, and we need to have a mechanism in place that guarantees the quality of service, and that on the other hand enables the decentralized approach to providing services and buying services in this environment. So staking has an incredible utility because it guarantees certain minimum service level, and we call it a decentralized service level agreement, where basically Energy Web defines those services, those service level agreements, and everybody who wants to provide services will have to buy a specific amount of tokens, and if they don't buy enough, they will have to kind of crowdfund it, basically attract community to stake with them, in order to make sure that the buyers of the service, the utilities or software companies, will get the software as a service delivered as per specified, and if not, they will get slashed. So, I mean, this is a great way of orchestrating this whole decentralized cloud infrastructure.
So indeed, just to power summarize that indeed, Michael. So what we have, and of course everybody is aware of it, because a lot of questions was about this, which we will answer after this short intro. But basically, we said use case number one is really to make sure that, because we operate in the energy market, and availability of energy is of course a big issue. So how can you actually deliver that service in a way that the customers of us, which are the utility layers, or the customers of basically the infrastructure, can be guaranteed that the service as they procure gets delivered. And that's indeed where we use the staking mechanism, where service providers will be known and onboarded, but everybody on this call can then stake with these companies and get a return on their tokens. And similar to how the nominators and the validators work in Polkadot. I think the other very interesting use case we're going to roll out is the one that we're doing with NG Mobisol in Africa. And actually, I think, Michael, that's more where Energy Web token is used as collateral, I would say, although, of course, there's also a return on it. Can you talk a little bit about that use case?
Yes, absolutely. So, the idea is that I would say the community is pretty much familiar with the concepts of lending in the DeFi space. It's always backed by an asset to make sure that the lender is secured. And this is exactly what we want to introduce in the NG/Mobisol project, but with the twist that it's not going to be a loan to buy more Bitcoin, for example, but it's going to be a loan that will finance decentralized solar generation assets in Africa to the people who need it the most. And I think this is one of the most exciting things I've heard in crypto ever, because number one, you have this crowdfunding mechanism that is incredibly efficient and transparent because of the nature of the blockchain itself. The liquidity is there. I can stake in order to generate a loan for a very good cause that returns real world cash flows, but at the same time I will have the ability to sell my position to somebody else. So this is great stuff. But basically, let's say, I think, Walter, the most important thing we have to convey in this call is that in our ecosystem, the staking reward doesn't come out of thin air. In our ecosystem, the staking, for example, in this service layer, utility service layer, comes from the revenue those service provider will generate by selling their services. And in the case of Mobisol, it's actually interest that is paid back by the borrower.
I think that's a very good point. Thank you, Michael, for your insight. And let me conclude with that. So, we of course all want 2,273% API where we stake our tokens. I get that, but what you will also see is that those are going away, as we probably can see already in these days where the market is, and all the projects that we will do where we give further utility or Energy Web token, whether it's through crowdfunding or through collateralization or loans or creating stable coins or whatever, there is always a real use case behind it with real money flows that will actually fund it. So it's a much more, I would say, approach that fits our market and also our approach to the market, backed by real assets, backed by real cash flows. So thanks, Michael, for that. I think Daniel and Bart, probably time now to go through the questions. Yeah.
So thank you so much. I think let's talk a bit about staking on the Energy Web chain. At the beginning, you talked about our agile approach, and one of the questions is, are we, and we as the community members, are they able to test the staking platform, maybe on Volta? Can you tell us?
Yeah.
We have planned that?
Definitely. So for sure. So I think it's important to, for those who actually have read the article, to understand there's two approaches to it. So one is more the whole setup that we're going to build. If you want to provide a service, how do you actually do it using Switchboard and create the pools, etc., etc. So that's more the complex, let's say, setup that is close to being launched on Volta, where we're going to really test that workflow, and then there's automatic creation of staking pools, etc., etc.
Yeah, but Walter, this is the workflow for the companies, right? That want to participate in the ecosystem.
Totally. So that is for those that are on the call that actually have the ambition to set up a service, or those that are a little bit more technical savvy. But we really want your input there too. And then there's the other use case, and that's for people that say, I couldn't care less about all this complexity. I just want to stake. And there we have built some prototypes of a user interface. What do you like most? And that is really 1, 2, 3 clicks and staking done. In that same area, for when it comes to patron staking, I'm also in discussion with exchanges. So similar to, for example, how you can stake DOT on Kraken, those type of experience we can also see there, that you actually start using the exchanges to do it. But so both use cases will be built, and of course we will heavily involve our community to test it, and then also on an ongoing basis when we've launched it, we of course want to continue to get the feedback on how is it actually working, where can we improve.
That's amazing. So testing is coming in the near future. Amazing.
Yes.
Walter, we also had a question about the security of staking. So actually, what security measures is Energy Web taking to make sure the platform will be safe to use and secure?
Yeah, very good question. Guys, and you're all aware of it, but there's so unbelievably much scamming going on. So I'm pretty sure that after this call, we will probably see the first staking spools popping up. But unless it is being communicated by Kubar or by Sayan or by the formal channels or by Daniel in the channels, it's not real. And when in doubt, please ask. But there's so much scamming going on. So we have a lot of. So when it comes to launching the pools, be aware. I'm sure there will be fake pools that are mechanisms, staking mechanisms setting up. So do the extra check, etc. And we will be very clear on what's real and what not real. But apart from that, of course, how we've made sure also is everything we do. We might be a little bit conservative here and there, but you have, of course, a big reputation to hold up. So we will never launch anything that we're not sure about. So we will do, of course, in how we build the software. It's all open source, so it can be criticized. We will audit it, of course, before we launch it, and then during the launch, we will, of course, also make sure that we monitor it like the other staking setups will do. Of course, it remains software. It remains always. There's always a risk, of course, but we will, of course, continue to minimize that risk. And there will also be incentives, bounties for people that can actually break it. So definitely, when we're testing it, we want people to go out and break it and see where the vulnerabilities are.
This is why it's taking so long, right? Because we don't want to put a smart contract out in the open and just let people, stake and see what happens. This is, for example, why we want to put stuff on Volta first, and we're actually going to encourage the community, all the listeners, break it, tell us what went wrong, so we can fix it, and then when it's on mainnet, it's actually bulletproof.
Yeah. So as I understand, we will audit it we will have something like a bug bounty to ask the community members or developers to check what's wrong, and if there is something wrong, we will fix it before we launch.
Definitely, and also, and guys, again, we're not doing this just to launch a staking pool. We can, of course, launch a staking pool tomorrow and say put 10 tokens in, you get one per month back. That's easy. We're doing this to facilitate real energy markets. So yes, the staking will be ultra safe, but also how it operates, and we also don't want the infrastructure to fail and then everybody sitting without power. So when it comes to security, robustness, yeah, that's really that's our main focus. Yeah.
Yeah. And how hard would it be for a community member to stake? Is it easy? Like you mentioned, for example, staking Polkadot on Kraken, that's something like 3 or 4 clicks. How is our UI looking like?
Yeah, so I think again it's important here to realize, so the UI will always, when it comes to staking for a decentralized service level, will of course be the responsibility of the service provider. And so if NG or if Microsoft or if whoever, people on the call say, I want to be a service provider on the utility there, and I want to open up my pools also to the patrons, then it's their decision how the UI looks. So the Kraken UI is different than the Liquid UI is different than the Web3 Polkadot UI. So that's their decision. We've also built a UI ourselves. I think it's very simple, but we are going to ask, of course, the community for their opinion. But yeah, that should be as simple as 1, 2, 3 clicks, and off you go. Definitely.
So you mentioned wallets. So if we want to stake our Energy Web tokens, where will that be then actually? In a wallet, or will we be able to stake directly from an exchange, or how do you see that?
Again, that will be agile there. So we will start with, of course, the wallet, so Trezor and MetaMask, for example, and then, of course, when you stake, the tokens are in the contract. But I'm already in discussions with our exchanges, and they're quite keen to also facilitate it from their exchange, of course. And then you would leave your precious Energy Web tokens on the exchange, similar to the Kraken Polkadot experience. Yeah.
Okay, so as I understand it, like this architecture is loosely coupled. So you have the user interface, and then you have smart contracts under the hood that can accept orders to stake stuff and so on.
Correct. Yeah, that's how we build it, and the way these smart contracts are generated again is quite secure. So actually in the pools that are being generated come from a smart contract factory, so that you can always be assured that when a pool has the, let's say it's on the list that you can choose from, that's a pool you can trust. That's how we've set up the creation of the pools. Yeah, and the UI will be then loosely coupled and very simple, so it's plug and play. Yeah.
So that also answers the question. We've seen a lot about will they be able to take directly from a hardware wallet like Ledger or Trezor. So actually, as I understand it, the tokens are deposited in a smart contract, and this can be done from any wallet or any interface.
Yeah, how you use it now? Yeah, there's no change on that side. Yeah.
Okay.
And of course, exchanges will be later. Just to be clear, we first because that's
focus on our own thing, and eventually we
our
will
own
expand.
thing. Yeah. Unless they probably the smaller one will be quicker than the larger one. So as usual.
Yeah.
But yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So what about the annual percentage yield? Is there anything being decided yet?
So again, I saw these questions a lot. So no decision. Yeah, and I understand the interest, but I think like we said, it's based on real use cases, real cash flow. So that will of course be the future that determines it. For example, in the NG case, we're not going to give 100% return and then the poor people in Africa have to pay for staking returns. That would be extremely inappropriate. So we actually, the percentage there will be such that the people locally have to pay less, and that there is still a good return. And that's very possible because a lot of the money, of course, now gets stuck in the system in Africa itself. So we're working through that case. Mm-hmm.
Just to be clear, Walter, we have like two projects. We have our own Energy Web staking on the Energy Web chain, and we can earn something with the NG project, NG Energy Access project. Is that right?
Correct. Yeah.
Go on.
Oh, and this is also there's more coming. So it's also an invite to the community. If you can see a really good use case, a real one, that you say, hey, this would be really cool, and either using energy web tokens as escrow in a loan or other mechanisms, then we're very interested in that because, like we said, we want to go and also now really focus on building that ecosystem on top of our DOS that gives more utility to our tokens. So yeah, we start with these two.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
And does that mean that,
one of my personal favorites would actually be a stable coin that is backed by EWTs. I think that would be very exciting.
Tell us more about it. The stablecoin and Energy Web?
Yep. So let's say similarly to other very well respected, reputable project, I think it's more than possible that we will be able to lock our Energy Web tokens into a smart contract and issue ourselves a loan in a stablecoin, which would be pegged to the dollar or the euro or any other currency. And it's not unimaginable to think that there will be a stablecoin that is linked to a kilowatt hour of electricity as well. So
what will be the
linked directly
benefits?
to a commodity.
What will be the benefits of having
I think this would be also one of those real world use cases, and I'm very excited about this one actually.
Yeah, so one use case would be, Daniel. So we are also going to give grants to projects because from the lab. So we want to, of course, drive innovation and we want to go and stimulate new applications on our chain. And there's one way we could say, here you go, we give you an Energy Web Token grant, but then, of course, whoever runs as the project needs to hire servers at Amazon, needs to pay staff. So we don't want these people then to sell the Energy Web Token and create a lot of sell pressure. A much better mechanism would be that we give the grants in our own stablecoin. So we basically lock up Energy Web Tokens as collateral, we have a stablecoin, and then the grants are being paid in that stablecoin. So it's that type of mechanisms that we think about. Another one would be if NG phase 2, rather than locking up Energy Web Tokens, converting it to dollars, etc., we can start giving out loans in a stablecoin.
Yeah, so that makes a lot of sense indeed.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So we're now actually not only talking about staking, but also about liquidity pools, loans, yield farming, stable coins. All the things are all like connected to the staking concept, and that's interesting because there was a question as well from the community. They asked if it's thinkable that staking will be extended in other assets as well, so not only Energy Web tokens. Do we have anything on the backlog about that?
So, for example, another token as collateral, or what's the?
Yeah,
I think that we need to make sure that our native token has as much utility as possible, and this is what we're going to focus on. I would say the second asset class that I see suitable for staking is the stable coin that is backed by Energy Web Token. Definitely, right? And because we are a decentralized ecosystem and we already have Carbon Swap, is doing a great job, then it's obvious that people will be able to, let's say, plug in their projects and plug in their ideas and their tokens into our infrastructure.
Okay.
Yeah.
So stable coins could be like an outcome of some kind of a staking contract, a bit like MakerDAO does.
Absolutely correct. Yes.
Okay. Liquidity, MakerDAO, definitely. Yeah.
So in terms of staking, how often will the rewards be distributed? Is there a lockup period? Is it daily, weekly? Are there any details about that?
And we're also very interested in the views. So obviously we want the staking to be successful. So if and I think the first good test case will be also around NG Mobisol. And the honest answer is, we don't know. We're going to experiment with that, but it needs to be competitive to other mechanisms, of course. So the loan, for example, just to give you the concept, so the loan to Africa will be a 2-year loan. obviously it's unthinkable that people will stake for 2 years, but perhaps some people want to do it. Great. Well, then the rewards will be higher. But I think in the general principle, it should be easy in, easy out. I think that's convenient, and then with real incentives that if you stake it longer. But it will always be clear in our case what use case you're actually supporting. So and then so I think it will be. I think we said in the article around this 10% mark that's definitely something that we're now calculating with. But again, if there's a service provider, if we go to the decentralized service level agreement, if there's a service provider that is willing to give more, then we're not going to stop them. It's a free market in that sense.
So the service providers are free to pick their own percentage.
Yeah, definitely. Totally up to them.
And Energy Web is around the 10% mark. You said that.
Oh,
right?
we want to get this going. That's also why we proposed the sponsoring from the community. It's a catch-22. So if you're asking service providers to invest, pre-invest in building the infrastructure to be able to provide the service to customers, then why would they do it if there's not a customer yet? So in order to not end up in this deadlock, we've said we're going to sponsor that, and in that concept we're thinking about this 10%, but we're working through the detailed math there. But,
so that's
our number. Yeah.
That's really
you just have to keep track of time. We're already 30 minutes. So I would say we have time for one more question, and then let's see if we can get some people on stage.
Yeah, so one of the questions with a lot of upvotes was the question about compound. In our mechanism, so the UI for the community members, do we have a compound button? Are staking rewards compounding automatically?
Yes. So in the test platform that we will launch in Volta, then it's definitely there. So it's and if people don't like it, they can vote it out. But I assume most people will like it. I think it's a good mechanism.
Yeah. So they can turn it on and turn it off. Okay, great.
Yeah.
So now we will give everyone the permission to put up their hands. Yeah. So if you guys have questions, put up your hand, raise your hand, and then I will invite you. Stage. Let me check.
Mighty is in.
Yeah, I already clicked Mighty on stage. Welcome, Mighty.
Mighty is out.
So let's have the next
one. Low is in. Hi.
Hello.
Hi. Yeah, we can hear you.
Hi. I was wondering, Energy Web. I was wondering their coming role in the emerging carbon markets, and does this Suzu token have a carbon credit attached to it?
Yeah, so good question. So the Suzu token is the native token of the Carbon Swap Exchange, which is a community initiative that, of course, we fully embrace within Energy Web. I don't think the Suzu token now has a carbon credit attached to it, but I do know that because I asked on Twitter, if you guys can reach out to me, please do, which they did. So they will definitely come with also NFT type marketplaces, and then one of the projects can definitely, or probably will be, that we're going to use some real RECs, renewable energy certificates, and tokenize them and put them on the marketplace there. Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you, Zayla. The next one. Shidanada? No?
So we have Andrew.
Yep. Hey.
Andrew.
Will there be a minimum in which service providers can offer the staker to like those 10%? Is that the minimum that we'll ever get? And then from there, it will be, like the free market, where if companies want more stakers with them, they'll offer more. Is that how it is, or will 10 be the max? So what's the mechanism of the free market? Is there any safeguards?
Oh, it's a free market, so it can be anywhere between 0 and, or perhaps even in the current free market in banking, well, between brackets free, it's actually a negative yield. But no, it's completely up to the service providers. Again, in the beginning, we want this to work, right? So we will be pushing a little bit, but it's in the end what it's about providing, in this case for the service level, a reliable service to the energy utilities and delivering that SLA. So it's whoever provides that service that can then decide how they want to reward the patrons or the state. That really depends on how many AnyWeb tokens do they have themselves, how many do they want to get from the market, how they want to involve the patrons in the market, etc., etc. In the case of, so go on, yeah.
Yeah. So along that line, what's their incentive to get more tokens from the community?
Well, then the incentive is that they don't have to spend the capital themselves to buy them. The alternative would be that they have to buy the tokens all themselves and spend the money there and generate the yield to win, or they basically avoid that expense and use money to invest in systems and software and give a yield to the ones that stake with them. Because the requirement will be for a service provider to have a minimum amount of AnyWeb tokens staked. Then it's up to them how they get to these tokens.
And basically the amount of revenue they will be able to generate is also proportionate to the amount of stake.
Great. Let's go to the next one. Thank you, Andrew.
Thanks. So we have Cryptic Dimension.
Yep. Guys, when you you need to accept Cryptic Dimension. 1, 2, 3. No, next one. Mighty, welcome. Your mic is on. Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Loud and clear.
Mighty.
Okay, sorry. So regarding slashing, when we provide EWT to service providers and they don't deliver the service correctly, the slashing will affect us as stakers?
Again, that's really, so in the beginning, definitely not, of course, so I would say when we launch it, it will be more or less guaranteed because we want to test the mechanism, etc. But then over time, it really depends on the proposition of the service provider. So let's say there's 10 service providers. If nobody, of course, the service providers will be slashed in the sense that they will have to pay a penalty to the customer, and then it's up to them how they pass that through the stakers. I personally don't expect. I think they will. If you run a business, then you're probably not going to bother. So I would never do it. But there could be a service provider that says, "Oh, if I get slashed, I slash the patrons with me." But then I would expect the market to correct that behavior, and they will probably get much less interest from stakers with them. So
Walter, to be clear, the service provider are free to decide their own rules, but of course they want to have a lot of community members taking under their rules, so they need to make it attractive. Is that correct?
That's correct. And the whole concept, yeah.
Yeah, it's also in our expectation that there will be like a market of risk and rewards. So if you have a service provider that offers a lot of yield, it could be that it's of high risk. So we just see how it happens. If there's a service provider who like officiates that he will slash everyone who's like staking with him, it's very possible that no one will like pick this service provider to stake their tokens against.
Yeah, so the service provider needs to make it as attractive as possible for us community members to stake with them. So we have at the end we have some choices, and they are competing to make it attractive.
Basically, right. Yeah, and what we will do from AnyWeb is, because the service providers will be KYC'd, so we know who they are. We will of course make sure that whatever has been agreed up front, whatever the proposition is, that's also what's then executed. That's of course in the smart contract. And because these smart contracts come from our factory, They can't say to you, oh, there's no slashing, and then 3 months later they slash. That's impossible. But there could be a proposition with high reward that also includes some higher risk when it comes to slashing. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
That's the free market.
Thank you, Mighty.
Thank you, Mighty.
So
Thank you.
I could ask one more question regarding
Yes, sure.
that.
Go on. Yep.
So, what are the most promising use case that you see on the service provider side?
Yes, very good question. So I think in our system or ecosystem, it's all around availability of service and also availability of or performance of the service. So I think the first one we're probably going to do will be more closely related to the validators. That's what we're going to discuss with them because they already operate the service, of course, and that would be a logical one. Another good one would be all around availability of, for example, of the RPC nodes or perhaps some other platforms that we use, like the bridge or like other stuff. And then over time, it will also evolve into services in the utility layer. So that could be Switchboard, it could be the decentralized service bus, could be identity and access management cache. So services that are actually being used when we really deploy our DOS. And we're going to, for example, start a big project in the country where we'll also include that services layer, and then probably next year we will also propose them to use these DSLA concepts there. And then it will be in a certain geography, service providers providing a service to this customer, and then including the staking.
Yeah, so one other question, Walter, from the community. Is there a minimum amount of a EWT that community members need to hold to be able to stake? Is there a minimum?
Not for the community members. For the service providers, yes, because we want them to be committed. But for the community members, again, it's completely up to them. Apologies to the service providers, but no, that I would not expect. There's no reason that there would be a minimum. No.
Yeah.
We want this to be available to even token holders that have 10 tokens should also be able to participate. We want to make this as decentralized as possible.
Yeah. So what I think is important to mention is that the service providers are in charge of setting up the rules, but they want to make it as attractive as possible because they want everybody to stake with them. So there will be a small competition or something.
Exactly.
Yeah, correct.
Great. Let's
Okay.
do one other question.
Andrew?
Yeah, let's try Andrew again.
Sorry, me again. You just said that so that the service providers want us to stake with them. But if they've got the minimum amount of tokens, they don't need. Or if the company was to get into this and then buy all the tokens they need, they don't. Why is there competition for us if they've got the minimum?
If they have the tokens themselves, they obviously don't need the tokens from the patrons. You're correct. Yeah. But it won't be one service provider. It will be many. So
you think it will work like if people are with a service provider and they see another service provider offering better, they'll move to them, and then the original
Absolutely,
person
yeah.
will go
That's how it
below the
works.
threshold.
Yeah, there
that's
will
how it will
always be
work.
someone offering a better proposition.
Yeah.
That's what I expect, and that will be very dynamic. So I would expect, and that's also I think why it would be very logical that staking time lockup periods should be not too long, because then we end up with where we want to get away from, because we don't want these long locking periods. And it could also be that customers. That's what I expect. That customers will demand. Okay, I want to procure this server. Because it's a real service on the utility layer, and I want a minimum of 10 or 15 service providers to be sure. And then so there will be but that's to be seen how the market plays out. Yeah.
If I may, as an economist, wearing an economist hat, I mean, two fundamental reasons why people would stake. Number one, the revenue will be directly linked to the amount of stake. So if I want to make $1 million a year, I have to stake X. If I want to make 10 million, I have to make more, maybe 10x more. So this is one reason, and another reason is that the late comers to the party, people who come to the ecosystem later on, will have higher barriers of entry because the token price would probably be higher. And this is a mechanism that would allow newcomers to come in and not necessarily on the first day buy 20 million euro worth of tokens. They will be able to come with a smaller capital, but attract stake from the community. And this is how we see the innovation actually perpetuating in our ecosystem.
That's a very good point. We want also, because that's of course how the market now operates. I've worked in that market for a long time. The service provision market is really a market for the big guys with big balance sheets. And with this mechanism, if you include the community members, also smaller companies can provide large enterprise grade services. Yeah.
Yeah.
Point, Michael.
Hey, welcome. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Very well.
Yeah.
Great. I've got a question about what we just talked about with staking mechanisms and the return of investment that you can get from staking your EnergyWeb tokens. Is there any risk that, for example, when Engie and the project in Africa that you guys are doing with them, if they can offer a lower return of investment on EnergyWeb tokens, that some projects which maybe deserve to run on the EnergyWeb chain, that they that people move and that they don't have enough people staking with them? Like, is there a risk that some people can't, or some companies can't really offer the same staking rewards?
So if you look in Engie, I think Engie, so we have now two use cases. One is the decentralized service levels, where we want the service providers to stake so that customers can be guaranteed they will deliver. And we have Engie, and Engie is actually more a use case where we say, let's use EnergyWeb token as a collateral, or through some crowdfunding, that we can then give the money to the people in Africa, and they will pay back the loan, and that return goes to the stakers. So I think so the second case is much more fixed type of return case. So there's no slashing there. It's really just using our tokens for collateral, and the loans are being paid back by the people in Africa, and that income is the staking return for the stakers. So I don't see that issue on that case. In the previous case, where you actually, if you are a service provider and you don't have enough attractive offers for your, or if you can't repay the staking rewards from your revenue, then you have a normal business challenge indeed. That's a good point. How would you then pay it? So that's that type of scrutiny, of course, we will all take care when we onboard these, particularly in the beginning, these service providers. So the service providers, when it comes to DSLA, are all KYC known activities, so that we don't want any scammers there or that type of stuff.
Yeah, because I felt like maybe because people in Africa, the prices have to be it has to become cheaper for them as well. When you start offering services. So I could imagine that maybe it was more difficult for them to offer the same return of investment compared to other service providers, maybe leading to people moving and them not having enough people staking with them to be able to run.
Well, but this is always a risk when you have a capital market, right? But
sure.
The way we see it is, with number one, we are trying to build a decentralized ecosystem, so we cannot tell people what to do with their money, with their tokens. Number two, there is always this risk versus reward analysis that everybody has to do for themselves. And let's say if you are staking for the Mobisol project in Africa, part of your reward is the good feeling that you get by doing something right, and maybe having 2% less return over 2 years or something like this. But with this project specifically, I think the risk is extremely low, because this is a project that is kind of supported by one of the biggest energy utilities on the planet. So you have to take this into account as well, right?
Yeah. And the
thanks for the explanation.
Just one final comment indeed. What we're not going to do in the second project with Engie is make it more expensive for the local people. That would be really bad indeed. So that sets the boundaries. But we went through this case with Stefan, and we are probably going to do a separate stage after the holidays with Stefan, specifically on this project. He's a very inspiring leader and also very willing to explain to us what they're doing in Africa, how it works. It's very impressive, but there's enough, let's say, margin we can take out of the value chain to still give a very good return and to lower the prices for the people in Africa. So that's really good. Mhm.
Yeah. Thank you, Kate.
Thanks for the
Okay.
question.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Walter, last question before we wrap up. We have talked about the UI for the community members. Are we going to preview something? I can imagine that everyone wants to see and see something just to get a taste. Do we have something for that?
I think yes. Can I say it, Daniel? Can I reveal
sure.
it?
Go on.
Okay, yeah. No, definitely. So I can only say what's the Twitter, and we're going to send out a tweet later today, and we specifically want your input because the team has come up with two UIs, which these are the UIs for the patrons to stake. So very simple. I personally love both of them, but we can only work with one. So yeah, we definitely want the input from everybody on what we should use, and then that's what we're going to build.
Yeah, so we have two different layouts, and they are slightly different. Like they are 99% the same, but we do want to know from the community which layout they like better or they think fits better on the screen.
So you can stake behind your preferred layout, right?
Yeah. And also we want to
it will actually be like staking with Twitter likes and retweets.
Okay, well that's it's a start. It's the alpha launch.
Yeah, and also I think now we have like many questions answered. I think it's a good idea to continue the discussion in our Discord. If people have questions about staking or about specific things we've been talking about, please don't hesitate to open up the discussion. It's very valuable for us as well, valuable for the entire community. So
yeah, and we made a special section for this in Discord. We have Energy Web Staking right now, and we have two sub-channels. It's feedback from the community and feedback from developers. So when we are going to launch on Volta, feel free to give feedback. If you want to see something else, if you want something to be removed in another version, please give us input.
yeah, and also like it has been said, but I want to repeat it. If you want to test staking once it's out on Volta, please reach out to us for getting Volta tokens. You don't have to necessarily use the faucet. You can just talk to us.
And Volta tokens are free, so anybody that tries to sell you Volta tokens, no, it's not possible.
Yeah, guys, please beware. Like Walter warned, there are a lot of scammers and things. So Volta tokens should never be offered in exchange for something.
So everyone is able to get the Volta token from the faucet, and you are able to ping me, ping Kobar, ping Salyam. Volta tokens are free. When we will launch, we expect a lot of impersonators. Do not buy any tokens. If you need tokens, just connect us, ping us, and we will send you tokens if you can figure out how the faucet works. So ping me, ping Kobar, ping Salyam, and we will send you some tokens. So thanks everybody. I think we did our best to answer all the questions.
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to the next stage.
Yeah. Also, we'll try to like put the recording on Discord, maybe in a loop. Last time we did that. But now we like put in a bot. We see if it worked. Let's hope. Fingers crossed.
It will work. Yep. So when we have staking, we will come up with links in our Energy Web staking section. We will provide guides and stuff. So everyone who's asking for guides and things, we are on it. I think that's it for now. So thanks everybody. Thanks Walter. Thanks Michael. Thanks Kobar.
Thanks for all the questions. Really good questions again. Thank you very much, guys.
Yeah, and thanks Salyam. Salyam is also somewhere in the chat. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah.
Thank you.
Have a nice day.
Thank you all. Have a nice day.
Bye bye.
Bye bye. Ciao ciao.
See you all. Bye bye.